guys, it's Vel here, and I just wanted to bring you guys a quick video updating y'all on all of the builds that I have made and whether or not they will be ready for 3.25 and how league startable they are. Right off the bat, I'm going to say if you were a fan of either my SST Raider or my Hollow Palm Ice Crash Raider, F's in chat for my girl. She's dead, she's done. I loved her, but currently Warden does not work for either of these builds. You can't use tinctures as unarmed. You need a weapon. And for SST, even though you have a weapon, you're attacking with an offhand, so ranged tinctures aren't really going to be the play either. Don't worry, I do have some ideas to bring back these builds in some capacity. However, I do not have time to do it before League starts, so, you know, we'll say goodbye. They had a good run. They had a really good run. They were really fun. Let's talk about Stormbrand first. I've had Stormbrand around for a long time, and I swear to God, it feels like every single patch, they are just trying to kill it a little more and a little more. But it still lives. This time, though, they whittled off some determination and they took away the great dual-wield wand nodes up over here in the tree as well. We ended up losing some res because taking a Lyra as a choice seems odd now just for res. So because we lost some res, instead I decided to take out the old belt, which was Burden of Truth, and put in the Corrupted Soul Doriani's Glorious Vanity. It's really good, and this way you're freed up a belt slot so you can add some res back there. We also ended up losing Defiance Banner, but it does mean there is some potential for some new things, like the recently updated Battle Mage Cry for the spell crit is something I've been considering, but I haven't tested it yet, so I didn't mess around with it. Other than that, Stormbrand is still a very comfy league starter. I would say, though, at this point, if you want to go to endgame and really, really push it to the limit, with this particular build, it gets expensive, so I'm gonna give it a 6, maybe a 5.5. It needs a little bit of lovin', a little bit of lovin' if you want to do the ubas. On to Ice Trap. For Ice Trap, not much has changed. We took out Bomb Specialist, which was damage. Instead, for the big quality of life, that's Pyromaniac, because it gives us immune to shock and ignite. We get the cold immune, or the chill immune. The chill colds, the freeze immune from Brine King, that regen, that 2% of regen per second, up to 10% per second for each trap and detonate it. Huge quality. It feels so good. So it was actually worth the loss there. We also, instead of doing shock avoid essences, we do stun avoid essence for boots, and that's pretty much all that changed with him. I think this build is super easy to league start. Gear is not expensive. Traps right away. This isn't a trap league though, so I doubt it. So I feel like the only expensive item, which are the slave driver gloves, will actually be really cheap. I don't think this is gonna be one of those like meta slave driver league situation, so I think it's going to stay pretty good there. It's easy to get your 4 watchstones, and it feels really smooth throughout the entire campaign into maps and so on. So I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10 for league starting. I am really excited to talk to you guys about Explosive Concoction, because not only did this league, they buff the damage on the gem again, which makes it just so much more appealing to go with. But last league, I had this whole other side in Templar going down here, etc. I was wearing the Skin of the Lords to get myself Elemental Overload and Elemental Overlords. Yeah, it was a whole thing over there. Because we're now using precise techniques, we no longer need elemental overload on the Skin of the Lords, meaning we can use any Skin of the Lords as long as it's our colors. By losing that Templar side, we ended up gaining a bunch more max leech gained per second, life, armor, evasion, and big damage. This POB still isn't using a Tides of Time, and it still has not added on like nearly any projectiles. It's using regular volley, not even greater volley, because mana used to be more of an issue, not so much anymore. So there's still some testing to be done. Overall, I really love this build. I think it's great from start to finish. I'm going to give it, though, for Leaguestart, a 6.5, because sometimes, in my opinion, you shouldn't switch over to explosive concoction until you get either a sapphire or topaz flask as your setup for your lightning or cold damage. And sometimes the RNG is not with you, and you can go through a lot of acts before you find it. But if you find it early, it's fantastic, and it's like an 8. It's like an 8 the entire way through. On to the Hollow Palm that survived, and not only survived, but thrived. Hollow Palm Ground Slam Slayer. This boy is doing great. He is doing fantastic. He has gained back quite a lot of damage. I'm really pleased for him, and I think he's got even more to go. What are the big changes? A lot of the impale nodes got moved around, so the tree changed a bit, but at the bottom. We're picking up a lot of max leech per second, increasing the strength of our overleech. With endurance charges being as outrageous as they are right now, we have to take out impact once we get enough accuracy so we can take masterful form. It gives us 6 endurance charges, 6 frenzy charges, and if you can get the res, you have potential for more frenzy charges, like getting a frenzy synth ring. Another nice thing is that you don't have to craft a rare chest piece anymore, so there's no need to worry about that. Brisk Wrap is back on the menu as best in slot, ideally with a +2 AoE corrupt. I also ended up taking out a rare necklace and throwing back in Astramentus. There's always potential, of course, for a rare necklace in there, but it's very expensive, and why do that when Astramentus can do the job? No longer do you need a rare belt. I have thrown back in a Cyclopean coil, and it is a nice corrupt target for res or whatever you want. Oh, we did lose Dread Banner, but we were able to gain back the impale from the tree. And all in all, I'm so happy. This was the underdog of my Hollow Palm builds, and I always thought he was like insanely good. So seeing him back in a moment of glory, I'm elated. Slayer is back on the menu. I'm excited. And I'm going to give this one, Hollow Palm is cheap. Nobody cares about it. Everybody wants big, stupid slams and so on and so forth that take big bonk weapons. Well, you can have a big, stupid slam with your fists, right? And I'm going to give it a solid 7.5 out of 10 to Leaguestart, because it is now, with the changes in this patch, it has made leveling melee so much easier. It has made grinding for that one with nothing so much easier. Yeah, I mean, you get ground slam like right away. So it's definitely up there. It's really good. I'm only giving it a 7.5 instead of an 8.5 because to really start popping off, you need your one with nothing. But that, I mean, it's gonna be so cheap. I already know. Another one of my favorite builds did take a bit of a hit. It is my Herald of Agony champion. The champion Ascend did get changed. Instead of 20 stacks of fort, you can only get 15. They also ended up taking away the stun immunity, attack speed, and 500 armor and evasion, replacing it with granting your allies fortification. This actually took out a more EHP than I wanted it to. However, it actually opened up some new doors. They moved where you get fort, So now it's available in the first lab, making first lab actually good and worth it on Herald of Agony. With gold, it's going to be so easy to respec. It makes the poisonous concoction starter part until you get those certain pieces of gear so much better. You can actually put in your points without thinking like, ooh, am I going to have enough regrets to take all this out when I get my couple uniques to get the build up and running. I have a couple ideas of how to gain back our EHP loss from the fort changes. Right now, I'm thinking about doing a blood notch / immutable force mix with the 2 jewel sockets that I gained from not having to use the flesh flame anymore, because I'm obviously not going to take give fort to allies. The agony crawler doesn't take any damage. It would be weird. I mean, he deserves for it, but he doesn't take any damage. I am thinking about doing that. That would also help with the stun immunity, plus gaining back a ton of life. And there is potential to put a flesh flame in there as well. All in all, even though this particular build needs a couple uniques before actually transitioning into the real feeling of the build, with all the changes they made, especially being able to use gold to take back points, I would say that this build is a solid 7.5. And you're like, but Vel, it uses uniques. How, as a league starter, could it be a 7.5? Because all of the uniques it uses, nobody cares about, and you can get them very cheap. Quill Rain might cost you the most, but when it comes to like Maloney, it's baloney. Nobody cares. Coming Calamity, who? Grip of the Council, Omega Lol, who uses that. The Replica Dragon Fang is an end game item. You don't need it right away. The only things you need to actually get the build online is the Quill Rain and the Coming Calamity. Ideally, both of these should be 5 length. The Quill Rain can be 4. The Calamity should be 5. And the Maloney's is nice as your third. So that's why I give it a 7.5. I did just put out a guide for the Tornado of Elemental Turbulence. It was added in 3.24. Now this is probably going to be my league starter. I am heavily leaning towards it. It was my league starter last league. I went super fast on terrible gear, and I strongly recommend it. I'm giving this a solid 8.59. The only reason I don't go higher than that is because A, I'm trying to be a little realistic, since it's a trans gem, so you need to either buy it or farm some lab to actually get it. Fortunately, there are no other trans tornadoes, so if you get that turn non-trans version into the trans version of its kind, you know you're only going to get that version, so that's really nice. I have one last build to talk about, and that would be my Archmage Firestorm of Pelting. I ended up making this last league with my boy and fellow content creator Arcanon, and Archmage as a league starter has to be like the easiest league starter to make. Like, what do I want to do? Archmage. How do I do it? Mana. Just slap some mana on it with some more mana and a side of mana. Probably want a little bit of life, until you get a stupid amount of mana and mana regen. It is so good. This build is SSF viable. It's League Start viable. However, I'm running out of time, so I only currently have an endgame POB for it. So I will give you that. If you see in this POB, I still have a Perandus pack in here because this is getting replaced with that new, that which was taken seems to be the new Perandus pack, or it did look like that is coming back, so I left this in. If you take it out, it's like 1.5 million damage loss, but as you can see, it's still really real noise damage. As you can see, the res here is a little low, but that's only because I moved a couple things around and didn't recraft before I imported this character. It's no problem. I would give this a solid honestly, 8.5, 9 out of 10. Just because Archmage is stupid easy to level with right now. Any skill you want, as long as it meets the Archmage conditions, plug and play. Plug and play. Just throw it in, you know, stack on some lightning pen and a couple things like that, and it's good to go. It's good to go. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. I hope it answered any of your questions. If you have any more questions, feel free to leave a comment below. Come to the stream. I stream 6 days a week starting at 8 p.m. EST. And I hope you all have an absolute killer League starter. Bye, guys.